Now, let's get one thing out there. This tent weighs, without the footprint, 4.4 kilos. Now that that's out there, just work with me here. Clear your mind. Turn around your picture of Petra Hilleberg that's on your bedside table. Light fades down. Clear your mind, and I'm going to show you what this tent has to offer and what's unique about it. Believe me, this is not just a tent. This is a NORTENT. As you probably gathered, I am pretty excited about this one. I'm going to put all the dimensions and the little unboxing at the end. And in this video, I'm going to compare it to some key models by mainstream manufacturers. And I'm going to show you how the structure of this tent is actually unique. I don't know anything quite like it that offers the same offer of stability and the same value for money, and it's got a special trick up its sleeve that's going to become apparent over the next few weeks. To make life easier, the footprint has an attachment point that's red to red here, and if you're going to use the footprint, I think it's much easier to pre-attach it. Now, if you buy this tent directly from NORTENT in Norway, I'll put a link below. The footprint is optional. If you buy it in the UK, it's included at just over £700. The Vern 2 is an all-in-one pitch. The inner and outer are already attached, and it comes with 24 of the excellent and very strong NORTENT pegs. They're a bit of a dirt magnet, these, but they're great pegs. So whilst I'm comparing this tent to other tents, I'm not saying that this tent is better than any of them. It's up to you to make your mind up. And when I did the first pitch of the Vern 1, we had that question out there: how was the Vern 1 going to perform? And some of you may have seen my videos of the Vern 1 in storm, so if you haven't, have a look at those. But that tent, built by the same company, is starting to prove itself, and I'm sure over time this tent will. But I'm going to start with several points regarding why I think this tent is somewhat unique in the marketplace and what's going to make it really, really strong and a fantastic mountain tent. Now, we can also have a little talk about and have a debate about what this tent is best used for. I think it's going to be a base camp or short carry to operations, or a short carry to have a storm camp. But please comment below what you think it'll be best used for. Everybody will have different uses, and I'll be interested to hear them. Point one is pitching from the ground up. So the poles go into these sleeves. There's a black pole in the middle, that's the longer one, and then two blue ones either side, and then red ones go across the middle. So I like to call it black and blue and red all over, even though this is my first pitch. So as it pitches from the ground upwards, that gives you the opportunity to keep it really low profile as the strength builds. Now, NORTENT show you on their pitching video is doing one pole at a time and going round, but why not place them all in, line them all up, and then just do one after the other? Why not? Nice and easy. And each of those poles have got a blue tab or a black tab or a red tab corresponding to its pole sleeve. So on each of these is a heavier duty long sleeve and a heavy reinforced material at the bottom. The material, incidentally, is 30D siliconized both sides nylon. The floor is 70D siliconized nylon, and the footprint is, I believe, a 70D PU and siliconized. And now it's at this point we'd start to build it from the ground upwards, and then there's the opportunity here to peg these out nice and low first. I think it looks like the bones of a brontosaurus or something there, doesn't it? So what you do is simply work around the tent, clicking and building the profile up slowly as conditions demand. Now, I've not looked at the manual for this tent at all, but it's very similar in pitch and style to the Vern 1, which was really straightforward. The road is long, with many a winding turn that leads us to who knows where. So when you've got to this point now, the second stage, you would have these guyed out already, presumably with the end into wind. And what you would do next as you grow the tent is undo the guy line retention bungee, pop those out and put the guy lines out. I'm going to finish building up today. Have you spotted something strange here yet? I've just roughly pegged it out today, but that worked. I'm starting to get an idea of the easy tension on this. All the panels have just got that nice bit of tautness on it. Good bit of strength through there. Now, this tent was given to me by NORTENT, and I'm really grateful for that. But I tell you how I feel now about this tent. It's like an arranged wedding where I've just met her for the first time, and I'm thinking, thank God she's beautiful. Nice. What makes this tent really potentially strong are the crossing points. Now, we know when we build a framework, we lash crossing points together, and that gives strength from each other. And on this tent, there's no less than 8. Now, I've compiled some figures, but I challenge you now to have a little think about your favourite geodesic tent, even the strongest ones you can think of, and tell me one that you can think of that has more crossing points than this tent, and there's none of them are very far apart. And the next point I want to make is what I'd call the sail point. So in other words, it's the sizes of panels, and that's my forearm there. So that's just my forearm, and my hand, that's my arm length. Sorry, that's my arm length just there. So the point is that in terms of areas to catch the wind, no areas on this tent are large at all. Not one. They're all compact. So next point is the shape of the whole thing. Now, NORTENT based the shape of these tents on the mathematical formula of pi that's often found in shapes in nature. So these will all be, the 3 center poles will be a perfect half circle. And now, if you think about shapes in nature that are shedding wind or waves, what does this remind you of? I mean, that's really, really strong there. I'm leaning on that with my entire body weight, and it's just holding me up. That's without any guys in. Now, I know I'm getting overexcited and getting ahead of myself a little bit, but I've got experience of the Vern 1, and this tent, the Vern 2, is potentially a much stronger structure than the Vern 1, and that definitely wasn't lacking in any departments. It's doing about 30 miles an hour now. Just measured it there. 31.5, and tent's pretty calm actually. One here and one here, and this is the other point about this tent, is the large space but symmetry of doors. So no matter what end or quadrant the wind's coming from, you're always going to have a sheltered door. Okay, time to go inside. Now, like the Vern 1, happy days, there's this little hook on the end of the door here. So what you can do is either pull all the way back and just hook it over here loosely, or if this half of the door is pegged down, you can just have that limited in opening. Sorry, I didn't put that peg in very well. Or there's a door tie back here, not much fiddling there, just a quick elastic loop, and there's another one down here. That was really quick and pretty secure. Okay, you know the brief, you first. This is a vestibule 1, and I think this is 90 centimetres from side to side here. It's a decent space. I was trying to boycott vestibule and just call it porch, but you know, you fall into these things, don't you? There's a 44 litre rucksack. No bother. And the camera bag. One small negative I don't like is this is a fairly low entrance, but I've got room to sit up, bolt upright inside there. But you know, this is a mountain tent with lots of shelter. It's not a big open vista campsite tent. Having said that, once this door's open and you've got both doors open here, you'll be able to see out pretty nicely and let nature in. Let's do that now. Good. Before we get too excited and get inside, I wanted to talk about the next point about structure of this tent and one of its unique points. Now, we know that what makes a great wind tent is a tunnel tent with a pole at each end. Tick. Now, one of the intrinsic problems with a tunnel tent is the big length of that central section, and you can either mitigate that by putting a guy line in the centre, or on rare occasions, not many tent manufacturers do this, putting a pole across the centre. Tick, tick, tick. And the other way of making this section potentially smaller, that's vulnerable, is sleeping crossways instead of lengthways. Tick. Then the other potential problem with the tunnel tent type structure is the potential for it to dip in the middle, collecting snow, getting loose when it gets wet. And the way to do that is to have a longer pole in the middle. Tick. Something I discussed before in the original Vern 2 video is how the original Vern 2 got around this tunnel tent problem of it coming in steeply and then the wind pushing it in inside there. And the way to get around that is to have extra reinforcement or poles around the outside of that, therefore creating extra space and height here that won't get pushed in by the wind. And when that pegged out, it's a really solid structure. Tick. Each zip has a glow in the dark thing. This is a sizable porthole door. Oh, that new tent smell again. In you go, you first. Hello. And what I can do is either tie the door back or stick it in that pocket there. I'll put up now what the outer dimensions of the tent are, but I'm going to give you some inner dimensions. This vestibule, of course, of which there's two, is 90 centimetres deep, and the height in front of the door there is 95, and the overall width here is 215 centimetres. The length at the corners is 2 metres. In the centre of the tent is 220. Now the height in the centre of the tent, I make that to be 1.05 metres, so 105 centimetres. I'm on my knees there, loads of height. Fab. Right, I'm going to blow some mats up and I'll show you what that looks like. Right, I've got two mats in here for you. This is the Thermaless Neo Air X-Therm NXT, and this is 185 centimetres long by 65 wide, or the 25-inch mat, and I've got plenty of room to lie down there. And with the, I'm 185 centimetres tall, and with the tent being steep walled at the end, I've got no problem there with my feet being particularly in contact with the tent inside. That's going to be absolutely fine. And I constantly get asked, which is fine, I don't mind, I realise these things are an investment, but what would it be like? I'm 6'6", would I be able to fit in this tent? Now, I've got my feet touching the bottom there, and I'm 185 centimetres, and above me is that much more space. So, I think if you're above 6'5", you would probably be touching the ends. Now, you could lie in the middle where you've got a little bit more height, but of course that's just you in the middle, or could lie diagonally. Can't say fairer than that. Now on this side I've got a Sea to Summit Comfort Light insulated that's just 55 centimetres wide and 180 centimetres long, and if I push that against the bottom of the tent there, you can see the space there. So in other words, there's going to be bags of space in this tent with winter gear for you and me with the dog, importantly, and she'll be able to fit in this kind of like longer bit here, the top or bottom. There's a drying line at each side and a lantern hook in the middle here, and there's a generous pocket at each corner, and with decent tension on the tent you could put stuff in there that had a reasonable weight to it, and it's not going to dangle down in your face. It's lovely to see these double-decker ones with an extra little mini pocket at the top, but I'm just nitpicking there really. Now, we talked about this being a mountain tent. We're thinking winter, wind, snow, rain. What about summer ventilation? You could open this vent that's sheltered by the flap there, and then you have the ventilated vent at the end there that's got a mesh over it. And then with the mesh door, which is why I like this porthole type, you could choose that in any kind of like configuration you like really, just a little bit more on in each side. So if you like the vent down there, not near your face, or you could have it near your face that side. Endless hours of entertainment configuring your ventilation options, and that's just one side. And of course I'll spin you around We can do that side too. So we'd have 3 vents at each side, and of course a door at each side to let some air flow through. Good. I hope you're enjoying this video so far on this first look at the Vern 2. It's a lovely tent. Even if you're not thinking of buying one, I would appreciate if you clicked on the like button and even subscribe. Now, I nearly forgot this. This is a $20 option, but if you have a portable stove, absolutely worth having, because this of course is a fire retardant stove jack. So what you can do is sit your stove in here, and the chimney comes out of here, and you can have a fire inside your tent, inside a mountain tent. How mad is that? So value for money, around £700. You can order this from NORTENT directly in Norway, or in England from Valley and Peak. I'll put a link to both below. But for this quality and size and structure and design of tent, it represents massive value for money. And I've just got a little list here that might get you excited, but again, I'm not saying that this tent is better than any of these, but inevitably one would draw comparisons. Now we've got the Hilleberg Tara that weighs 4.3 kilograms. It's got 4 poles. This has got 5, and only 5 pole crossing points. This has 8. We've got the Fjallraven Keb Dome. I think there's only 1 crossing point there and 3 poles. Oh, incidentally, the Hilleberg Tara is £1,590. The Fjallraven Keb Dome 2 weighs 4.25 kilos and costs £1,000. In a slightly different genre, we've got the Mountain Hardware Trango 2. That has 6 crossing points, weighs 4.4 kilos, the same as this tent, costs £900 and has 5 poles. One of them is a little porch pole. So, is there any other tents you'd add to that list? Incidentally, NORTENT, this is one of the reasons why in the UK we like footprint protectors, because we have lots of these little buggers everywhere. So what are the pros and cons with the NORTENT VERN 2? So an inevitable con is the weight of the tent, but like the story of the 3 little pigs, the light straw house, the light wood house got blown down and the brick one stood steady, and bricks weigh something. So if you're going to have a tent that's this robust and spacious, it's going to have a mass to it. It's made out of high quality materials that will stand the test of time. It'll be weatherproof, waterproof. An option is to seam seal it if required, but I don't think it needs that from the outset. I'm going to do it anyway, just to add extra strength to the seams. Why not? But these are well taped and reinforced with this heavy duty nylon material, but you know, that's entirely up to you. So the other con is its pack size, but the pros are many. So if you've got a best use of this tent, again, put in the comments below what you think that's going to be. But I think you're going to be seeing a lot of these in the future. You with a little unboxing of some of the components and the weigh-in. So if that interests you, here we go. Cheers. The weight with everything inside the bag, footprint and everything, smack on 5 kilos. Inner tent, outer tent, pegs, poles, bags on my scales are 4.48 kilos. The packed length of the Vern 2 is 49 centimeters, which is just over 19 inches by 20 centimeters. It arrives with a Velcro strap. These are the poles, of which there are 5, and there's this bag of lube, silicone sealant, instructions how to pitch, a spare guy line, a spare buckle, 3 pieces of repair patch tape and an elastic bungee, and there's a little brush for applying the silicone sealant. These are the NORTENT pegs, and if you remember with the Vern 1 there were 4 short, but that's been corrected now and they're actually being shipped with 20 pegs. But in here there are 24 pegs that weigh 16 grams each, and these are great pegs, nice and strong. The mud does tend to stick to them a little bit though, but otherwise they're really good. And that weighs 384 grams. I guess lighter pegs that were 10 grams each would weigh 240 grams. The 5 poles there weigh 1 kilo. This is the footprint. That's a 70D material that's, I think, PU coated on one side and taped. Really lovely heavy duty footprint, and I know that this clips into dedicated clip spaces on the bottom of the fly. So these are the poles. They are 9mm. There's 5 of them. There's 1 black and 2 blue and 2 red, and that's the order of pitching. So you go black and blue and then red all over.